Hi, Rick Brimacomb here again today. Welcome. And I have a friend, a business contact, and one of my most trusted confidants, Daniel Mosha. Daniel, welcome today.
Hey Rick, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Say, as anybody who knows about me and how I run my business world, I love doing things with people that I enjoy their company and friends with. And Daniel and I have been friends for boy, a long time, 15 years or something like that, maybe. And anyway, thank you for joining us today, Daniel. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask and places I might steer our conversation.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, Rick, that's amazing. I still think I remember that the first time we met for coffee, and it was just really cool to meet you and how we've gotten to know each other and have grown over the years. It's quite an amazing journey. So yeah, really fun to be here with you and just have a conversation. Yeah, so started my entrepreneurial journey riding around on my motorcycle, helping people with their computers back when I was undergrad at the University of Minnesota. Went to the business school there and started Tech Guru. So IT for anybody. That's evolved over the last 21 years. We focus now just on accounting firms. I now have a global team with clients across the US, real emphasis on cybersecurity and AI and really helping firms modernize and grow. Along the way, I also became a EOS implementer and have for the past 10 years been working with dozens of all different kinds of leadership teams from all different types of companies, live their best lives and build great companies. And I continue to do that to this day. Just EOS is woven into pretty much everything I do. Even this past summer, my kids made EOS personal plans. And when we launched the go-kart racing team with my sons, we even used EOS in that enterprise. So a few years ago, 5 years ago, I also launched Monday.com business, and we help businesses of all shapes and sizes get up and running, automate and integrate and incorporate AI with Monday.com, and have a couple of vacation rentals.
On the
Yeah,
side, in your spare time.
I enjoy a lot of travel and hiking in the outdoors. We're a RV/camping family, so I love adventure and otherwise motorcycling, as I mentioned, and also love aviation as well. I'm a private
Yeah.
pilot.
Yeah, I've seen most of that evolution firsthand. I didn't know you in your motorcycle tech guru days, but I knew you not long after that. Hey, talk a little bit before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts of the business stuff. You and I both have had some ups and some downs, some good stuff in our lives and some more challenging stuff, both personally and professionally, and that's been
Mhm.
part of the joy that I've gotten from our relationship and our work lunches
Hmm.
where, yeah, we got to our work, but not after we solved some of our other challenges. Talk a little bit about your view on grit and perseverance and being able to forge ahead despite things not going your way, my way, anybody's way. But talk a little bit about that because I think for the average business person or the average entrepreneur, a big part of how people ultimately have success is just because they pushed on even when things weren't going their way. So, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the journey and what makes things interesting and exciting. I think if everything was easy, then it'd be boring. Not that I have occasionally stirred the pot and created problems for myself and my businesses, which is why I try to once it's up and running, delegate to leaders and managers that like to grow and scale things, where I like to create new things. So knowing thyself has been a big part of my journey. Yeah, my dad told me when I was really young, hey, if you want something, you just got to get it yourself. Can't wait around for somebody else to make it happen. And I took that to heart. And certainly when I hit headwinds with figuring out like sales and growth marketing for Tech Guru and breaking through that ceiling and the way that when we were struggling to grow and the company was stagnant, couldn't figure out how to break through, we realized like we need to specialize. And so that was a very difficult transition and decision that was made. And that's where we went from having two accounting firms. Today we work with 60, and it was
60?
very 60, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
very deliberate. transition, but at the same time, very difficult to say goodbye and not expand and grow the business where we had been traditionally and what we knew, and go to this whole new world of accounting firm IT. In fact, I'm going to be at a conference next week in Minnesota, CPA conference. But that allowed us to break through that ceiling of consistent growth and be able to specialize and better understand our target market. Yeah, I don't know. I just found that being persistent has probably been the number one skill. I try to teach that to my kids too. This go-karting thing has been a great platform for that. Those are machines that don't work and sometimes don't work in ways that we think they will. And so a lot of times we make a change and it either decreased the performance or didn't work out the way that we wanted. And I found it was just a great platform to teach that kind of important life lesson to my kids in the garage at the track, to learn that, okay, that didn't work the way that we thought. So it's now a matter of, okay, we learned something still, like that's how not to do it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the other thing when it comes to being persistent. It's like all the ways that we choose to interpret the realities and what's happening in life, we get to choose how to interpret that. And so I've just chosen to say, hey, that's a learning opportunity, instead of, okay, that was a mistake and I'm a bad person, and let all that go and say, okay, now we know that's not the way to do this. Let's try something different.
Yeah, you're very conscious with how you parent your children. And I'd like to think I'm that way too. And I've been super impressed over the years with how you have worked with your kids. And I too have tried to bring some of my work stuff toward my kids and obviously manage it or massage it in a way that works best for them. Talk a little bit more about how you've worked with your kids, whether it's the go-karting or other things, and maybe stuff that you brought from your business world or your EOS world or just personal philosophy stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I would just say, Rick, too, like you've been an inspiration to me as well in terms of how you have parented your kids, and your kids are just a little bit older than mine. My sons are 12 and 15, and they're a little bit older, so it's like I'm getting a preview from you about things to come and things to think about. And observing you has been helpful to me in thinking about the decisions I'm making today in terms of how I engage with my kids. How can I shape and create experiences today that are creating the foundation for a lifelong relationship between my two sons and between both me and my two sons as well. So I'm always thinking about that. We're talking about things within that 10 or 10 plus year, decades long context. I'm like, they're always going to be my sons and they're always going to be brothers to each other. So what are ways today that we can strengthen those relationships and build for a long, bright future? So yeah, with that said, bring in the business. So lately, a couple things I've done is, look, for example, this conference next week, my kids are going to come with me. We're going to help set up the booth together. My 15-year-old has really gotten into marketing and sales and is involved in DECA at school, so I think that's pretty cool. So I said, I'm flying in my sales and marketing person. They're going to get to meet, and I thought, okay, that's going to be a great opportunity to talk about things and learn about what's happening in real life in a small business. In other ways, my youngest son has helped me in a bunch of different ways, setting up computers. I don't know, it was a proud dad moment as an IT professional, and I saw him last weekend totally tear down a computer, and I was like, yeah, sweet. Anyway, and he's been helping get computers ready to go and or recycle or whatever. So that's really been fun working with both of them and showing them how to create value, how to create customer delight, customer satisfaction, teaching them all those things and weaving it into, and even talking about like finances. Like we ran the finances for the motorsports team. They understand everything and we're involved in those decisions. We did forecasting and budgeting, and so those are some of the ways that I've woven in some of the, I don't know, how to run a business, how to think about a business, and I'm hoping I'm setting them up for giving them a leg up.
Absolutely. Whether they pursue business or not, either way, you're honing their tools and their critical thinking capabilities. And so that's amazing. And like I said, I hat tip to you with the work you do with your boys and how you parent. It's impressive. Flipping to more pure business stuff, you mentioned AI, cybersecurity as some of the work you're doing now. I don't know the exact number on how much money in the venture capital universe has been going towards AI over the last couple of years, but it's a dominant share of the venture capital pie. So, talk a little bit about AI and cybersecurity, knowing that my audience is a general business audience. And so we don't need to get into coding stuff here, but more how might your average business person look at these two matters and how might they best use them? And like you said, what have you learned that maybe you could pass along that they wouldn't use it? Hey, don't go down this rabbit hole. It's not worth your time, or you're going to get off track or whatever.
Yeah. I'll start with AI. And yeah, it's something that I'll share with maybe how we're weaving it into our businesses and then how we're advising our clients as well. Of course, it's just familiarizing with the capabilities of the chat AI tools, like whether you start using ChatGPT and then if you haven't done so already, try uploading some files to it and have it analyze those for you and give you some assessment. And then I do recommend that whether you're using Claude or ChatGPT to sign up either for the business or the premium, just so that it doesn't train the model on your data. And if you do want to be very careful, you can consider anonymizing your data. But generally speaking, I've found as long as you're on the business plan, your data is safe and only accessible by you. It's not training the model on that. And then check out some things like the new Atlas browser by ChatGPT OpenAI. So that is a browser that you give it instructions and it will interact with the web for you on your behalf. And so if there's something you don't know how to do or something that's like a repetitive task, you can just say, hey, do this step, log into the site, and it'll take those actions for you. Know that this is very early on still. It can do damage, so you have to watch it still. And then the next thing is work with your software vendors that you already use and start testing and trying and playing with the AI functionality they're providing. For example, Microsoft 365, if you're a subscriber there, trying and testing and using some of the functionality of Copilot. Have it create a Word document for you, have it create a spreadsheet for you, or a PowerPoint slide deck. It can get you 70, 80% of the way there, and you can fill it in. From there, we use it on every part of our business. I use ChatGPT and Claude as a kind of like a thinking, like a bouncing ideas off of. So I have it be my kind of a business coach to me, and I share with it kind of things I'm thinking about or challenges I have. And whenever I'm doing some like contract review, I'll throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me some initial things to think about on this. Of course, it's not a replacement for a lawyer, but at least it can give me some initial thoughts and thinking points. I have it draft letters for me. I had to send a letter to the SBA. And I said, here's what it needs to contain. It did the whole thing. And then I just fine-tuned it from there. So the next step, though, is going to be what's called agentic AI, where it's something where it actually takes action for you on your behalf. And that's where Lucid Day, the Monday.com business I'm a part of, founded. We're using tools like Monday.com and Make to actually automate workflows and repetitive tasks. So where this is headed in the next year is any task that you find that's repetitive and can be done over and over again, it's manual. Those are tasks that are going to be able to be automated more and more. So those are some things to test with and consider. I think we're seeing a lot of tools enter the marketplace in every industry. I'm most familiar, of course, with the accounting industry. Yep. There's tax preparation tools. There's tools that can be done for gathering information from clients and reminding them and actually processing tax forms and inputting the data directly into the other tax forms. So figure out what those things are for your industry and start testing them. It's too soon to tell which of the products are going to make it and which ones are going to be merged and consolidated. But this is not one of those things to be a late adopter and wait till that all happens. I think then you might have missed the bus. So that'd be my suggestion around AI. Before I go to cybersecurity, Rick, is there anywhere you wanted me to delve deeper?
What's a common mistake you've seen people make or assumption that they make with the different clients that you've talked to and your own experiences?
Yeah, I think the only thing is just like limiting beliefs around this new technology of, is it ready? Is it safe? Is it ready? No. Is it safe? No. You have to be very careful and test it. And just it really does just require a different mindset or mind shift from the way we've thought about software and technology in the past. Where I think in the past it's like some new company reveals some new software and does it work or does it not help us with our business use case? And then do we implement it or not? We learn it. This is where it's a totally continuous evolution right now, and that's also moving very quickly. It's a matter of, I think, of changing that mindset to one of, okay, a beginner's mindset of trial and playing and testing and evaluating. And also, I think one workflow that I like to use is, okay, here's this manual task. I'll give you an example, like time tracking in our business. And we've been using a spreadsheet. It wasn't working. So I just had a conversation with ChatGPT and said, hey, you should consider one or two of these tools. I'm like, okay, so I did, and it helped a lot. So that's a way that you can actually use AI to help adopt AI as well. So that's one of the ways I like to think about it.
All right, let's jump over to cybersecurity.
Yeah, when it comes to cybersecurity, the big things we're seeing now is just really phishing scams where they threat actors send an email, you click a link, either you then divulge a password to them, and then they use that to gain access to your mailbox and proliferate other things. Biggest thing there is make sure that everything is protected with multi-factor authentication. Windows 10 also is now no longer updated from Microsoft. So not anything that you got run on Windows 10, it's time to say goodbye. Chances are the machine's pretty old anyway, and get a new computer, or if it can be upgraded to Windows 11, then you're good. So engaging in some cybersecurity awareness training is always a good idea. And then also password management. So if you're not using a password management tool, I'd encourage you to consider either LastPass or whatever, but anything. If you need to share passwords between you and anybody else, you've got to be using a password management tool like LastPass to make sure that it's being done in a secure way. And then I think those are like some of the big things that we're seeing nowadays. And so, yeah, remain vigilant. If something looks fishy or it's a phone call or a text or an email, it probably is, and validate or any kind of request using a different communication channel. So if you got a quote unquote Microsoft is calling you and wants you to send you your multi-factor code, know that Microsoft will never do that. Your IT provider will never do that, and just hang up. But if you want to be very sure, then go on to communicate with that person via some other channel and confirm and validate that request is legitimate. So those are the biggest things we're seeing right now. And otherwise, yeah, just stay very vigilant and skeptical.
Skeptical, that's a good word. Good word. Keep the radar up.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, at Tech Guru, you made a transition from serving anybody and everybody that you thought might be a fit to focusing on accounting firms. One of the books I love is Built to Sell. Person is thinking about selling their business, go through a transition of, hey, we need to focus on where we think we're best suited. One of my portfolio companies, TimeSolve, did time tracking and billing for law firms, but at first it was time tracking and billing for whoever anybody wanted it. And that was a transition that we worked through. And I know you've spoken at Club E in the past for me. Had Raza Hassan, the CEO of TimeSolve, on a panel a couple months back, and he said, pick a niche to get rich, which on the surface is a little corny, but on the other hand, it's fairly legitimate. Talk about how and why you went through the transition to focus on the accounting firms, because I think that's a message that most business people can hold on to and probably benefit from.
Right on. And yeah, so back then, so about 7-8 years ago, we were running into the following challenges. We were struggling to grow. We did onboard 1 or 2 clients a month, but they were always so different. We just had to take what we could get, and we would spend money on marketing, but it never had predictable results. And then the other thing, we were one by one having our clients disappear because it would be like, oh, a specialist in orthodontists is now, we're transitioning to them. Or, oh, we have a specialist in law firms, specialists and so forth and so on. So we did an exercise. There's many names for it, but I sat down with my leadership team and I said, okay, if a company moved in next door and put us out of business in a year, how did they do it? And it wouldn't be just one business, but it would be specialists in all the different industries that we served. They showed up, and our clients would be better served by them than we were able to at the time. So we made the decision to start specializing in dental practices initially. We learned that quickly that was not a great fit for our competencies. And so you talk about like founder market fit, and it wasn't there. And what we enjoyed doing wasn't in alignment with the dental technology world. So we quickly pivoted to our second choice, which was accounting firms. We had two already. I got lunch with both of them, both those teams, and learned about how we could better serve them. And initially it was a little bit of fake it till you make it. We didn't really know a whole lot more about accounting firms, but we were quickly learning by going to conferences, meeting with our clients, and then I asked for connections and recommendations of who to talk to. I met with 10 other accounting firm leaders, and we got some more deep insights about what they need and want. And then we gradually started adding more accounting firm clients by going to conferences and networking, and then got to the point where we had quite a few accounting firms that we were working with, and it was becoming a distraction to work with all of the other non-accounting firm clients. So we actually decided to spin off, and my former business partner took the other side of the business on everybody else, and I focused the rest of the team just on accounting firms. And what I realized, it's actually a very different organizational structure that was needed, staffing model. We shifted to 24/7. 365, we got our SOC 2 compliance that really is important in that industry, and made a bunch of other changes, started hosting applications, which is a big part of what's needed in that industry. And that was and what's so interesting, it's like, it's still IT, we're still a managed service provider, but it was a very different organizational structure to tool the business to be specifically building the ideal firm for accounting firms. And that's happened over years. And then we figured out, where do accountants hang out? Oh, they go to conferences a lot. And so we got to get there. We created some partnerships with member organizations, continuing learning organizations, where they share and teach best practices. And then we help them implement those in their business. So that's been a little bit of that journey. And it was a little scary. Ultimately, when do we change the website? And what would our existing clients think? And it actually ended up being really a big positive win for everyone.
Cool. And so you feel like at this point now you're reaping the rewards and benefits of the specialization, leveraging the knowledge, domain expertise that you've created, et cetera.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like everything you said is true. I used to go and sit down with my clients back 10 years ago, and they would say, hey, what software should we be using? And I would be like, I don't really know. Because I work with 20 different industries. I can't understand or be a subject matter expert on all of those industries' best software. But now I can go and sit down and have a conversation with our clients, and I can say, hey, you need to be using this for practice management. I recommend this for this. Here's how we're going to move to the browser-based software. Oh, you're using Thomson Reuters? Okay, I know all about that, and here's how we're going to approach that. So it's like we can just be so much deeper, add so much more value as being subject matter experts. And even in the accounting world, every once in a while, I come across some software still that I hadn't heard of yet. Just the other day, I'm like, I thought I knew a lot of them, but there's still always more. So
sure. And then, so you spend a chunk of time focusing on Tech Guru, and along the way, you decide to layer in EOS. Talk a little bit about why EOS and why you made that decision to add another layer to your business. To your personal business.
Yeah, for sure. I had learned about EOS by being involved in Entrepreneurial Organization, their accelerator program here in Minneapolis. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. I wish I knew about this before. I read Traction, and then I was like, I've made every single thing. I've made a mistake, all of these. So who would have thought there was a better way to do this? Anyway, so self-implemented EOS at Tech Guru, and I really worked myself out of a day-to-day job. And so instead of going and, as I mentioned previously, stirring the pot and creating problems where they weren't helpful, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to step away from Tech Guru a little and build a EOS practice. So I just realized three things. I love EOS. I love coaching people. And I just love teaching. So at my heart, I love doing those three things, and those align very well with being an EOS implementer. From implementing my own businesses to helping others implement EOS seemed like a very natural continuation of my kind of entrepreneurial journey. And I just did a 2-day annual planning in Charleston last week. Still very active and love doing that. So I joke that I used to help people get what they want from their computers, and now I help people get what they want from their business.
Talk a little bit about, and you've worked with me utilizing EOS for the various business activities I have. I'll ask a question about that in a minute. Although I have to admit, I'm imagining I'm not your easiest client because a little bit of shiny object syndrome and bounce around a little bit on you. But I'll get to that. What about EOS resonated most with you? And I've introduced you to some of my portfolio companies, and some of the other companies I work with have used EOS, and you've talked to many of them. A couple things I like: the staying in your lane and allowing people to do what they need to do. That resonates with me. The trying to get the right people in the right seats, or the right butts in the right seats, that resonates. Having a limited number of quarterly goals to focus on and try to bat a high batting average, which, just for the listening audience, is not one that I've been as good at as I would like to be, but nonetheless, it's a work in progress. But what are some of the things that you saw that resonated most with you, and what are some of the things, and maybe they're the same, but what are some of the things like now that if the proverbial elevator pitch, or you got a couple minutes with somebody and they don't know what EOS is, and you say, here are some of the things that I think are unique about it and add the most value?
I went to I mentioned I went to the business school, and I learned a lot about marketing and finance and accounting. They didn't teach like the nuts and bolts of like how to just run an entrepreneurial business. And that's what EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, was really helpful for me to do. And so it started with kind of crystallizing the vision, using the vision traction organizer. Even my kids have them. I have one personally. All of my businesses have it. And it just takes out of my mind and commits to paper where we're headed and why and how we're going to get there. It's a great, powerful communication tool, because at the end of the day, EOS just helps align all the human energy in a business. And that is what is so needed so often. The other thing it helps do is it creates context for important decisions and conversations. And so what I found is that many times the leadership teams I work with, and my very own leadership teams, there's conversations that need to be had: right people, right seats, where we're headed, company structure. And it's just a really simple, these tools that are built into EOS are just really simple and help bring the important decisions that need to be made to the forefront. And then, that great thing about rocks, for example, which is what you were alluding to, which is the critical few priorities for any given quarter, that forces anybody and a leadership team to have to prioritize. Because that's the thing. I started working with a client years ago, and they said, hey, do you want us to send you our QB, or what are they called? Their key initiatives. And I said, okay, sure, before they started working with me. They sent me a 56-page document of key initiatives. And I said, how's this working for you? And they said, we don't get anything done. I said, okay, how about we start fresh? Let's try it differently. No more than 7 key priorities. And they became highly successful, and just focusing on the critical few. So those are some of the things. Like I like to say a lot. One of my favorite tools though is what's called the accountability chart, and it's something you can just start using today. And it just makes it crystal clear who owns what, who's accountable for what, and what the teams are, so that everybody knows what they need to be doing. And it helps. That's what I mentioned. Have those important conversations, because one of the founding rules of the accountability chart is we do structure first, then fill the seats. And so structure first means, okay, what's the best structure that's going to set this company up for success? And think about it and build it, totally letting go of anybody who's in those seats right now. And say, okay, we're building the ideal team structure for this company for the next 6 to 12 months. How are we going to do it? It's a great thought experiment. And then once you agree that these are the right functions, we don't do titles, none of that, and these are the key roles for each of those functions, then we say, okay, now we start to put names in those boxes. And wherever we don't have the right person in that seat, that becomes an issue that we need to just address and resolve. And that takes sometimes quarters and years to get all the right people, right seats. But I've gotten so many, work with so many clients who've gotten there. And then it's just things start to flow much more effortlessly. There's less chaos and less drama. And then you can hold everybody to the same high standards. So those are some of the tools that I found were transformational early in the journey from my own experience and working with some of my clients.
Yeah, that's a good word, transformational. It clearly has helped me, although, like I said, haven't been your easiest client, I'm imagining. But I've made progress. I've gotten better over time. My business has gotten better. My personal life's gotten better. So it's been transformational for me, which then leads to the next question. You mentioned you use imagining kind of an EOS life with your kids, and you and I talk about a lot of personal things as well as business things. How might you tweak EOS to fit people on the personal side a little bit differently? Again, whether it's your kids, whether it's me, other people you work with, but how's a kind of a personal client just a little bit different than a business client?
Yeah, and to clarify, I really only work with businesses and leadership teams, but
Yeah,
on the using it for it just okay, how do I say it? As a leader of a company, I can't imagine running a company any other way. There's just no more efficient way than using these tools. So then I was like, okay, wait a second. What about my own life? Because I've got a couple different businesses and a bunch of different things going on. Heck, I've even tried to do it with build a personal plan with my dad. I don't know. That's a work in progress. Anyway, there's a tool called the EOS Personal Plan,
okay.
and you can download it for free. It takes the company two-page business plan or VTO and kind of changes it to be more around you or family. You can use it for family as well. I found that's one of the most high impact tools in building that with my family. Had some really big realizations about what's really important to us, what's not really important to us, and helped clarify like what does how do we define progress essentially. Yeah, and so I'm a big fan of like go towards or like the gap. I don't know if you've read the Dan Sullivan Gap and Gain. Big fan of the gain thinking, measure your progress looking backwards about how far you've come, not how far you still want to go. But it is helpful to get clarity on where we're headed and why. I found like it tends to like yeah, you can have an accountability chart. I found that it's a little bit harder to apply personal family. But we've done some level 10s as a family, and that's actually been fun. And I weave that into our kind of a conversation and family dialogue from time to time. And I've heard of others having a lot of success with a family scorecard, for example. So a scorecard is a tool you look at some key metrics every week. You've got a goal each week, an owner each week, and that can be really powerful when you're building new habits and establishing and growing as individuals and as a family.
Yeah, and to be clear, I was not suggesting that you do business with personal, just people
Yeah.
like you. I have a bunch of different businesses, and it's probably trying to harness what needs to get done across all those different businesses. And then, oh, by the way, there's some personal stuff that falls in that. But it's been super helpful, and I appreciate you leading me
For
through that
sure.
journey. So thank you very much. So then, like you don't have enough going on, you decide, hey, I'm going to add Monday.com to the mix. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that business initiative.
Well, it's funny. They recruited us to be a partner years ago, or maybe 5, 6 years ago, and or like 2020, yeah, about 5 years ago. And I'm like, what is this thing? They set me up with a free trial, and I was able to replace and build in about in an hour. I built this whole infrastructure for my like EOS practice. I'd been spending hundreds of dollars a month on like Salesforce or whatever, and I replaced it and built the whole thing out, and it worked better anyway in like an hour. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. And so the funny story is like I said to them, I'll tell you what, we want to just focus. Tech is just accounting firms. We just want to work with those. And they sent me about 2 accounting firms that wanted Monday and about 60 others that were not accounting firms. And so I'm like, huh, okay. So there's a lot of people that want help with Monday. I think there might be a business opportunity here. I'm going to start up a business, but separate from Tech Guru. So we founded a Lucid Day, we called it. I like it because it's like clarity about your day, and Monday plays together. And now the company's grown. And then I did something different with that business. I built it, and I never have done the actual building or the actual Monday work from the beginning. I always had built a team, and now I've got a fantastic leadership team that runs that business, and I'm really just their EOS implementer, and I help a little bit on the finance side. So that's actually was a really fun part of my entrepreneurial journey, was owning like a portfolio company where I'm not as actively involved, but play more of an advisor, board member role. And that's been super rewarding and fun. And when I start my next business, I would like to try to do it again that way again. So yeah, we help. The big thing there is we're helping clients. So Connect Monday, which is like it can be anything. It can be a CRM, can be a workflow tracking. You can use it for marketing initiatives. It's got this platform called boards. You can have them customize them and have all different kinds of data types, or it's checklists that can take action when something happens. And so when that action a lot of times can be an integration, we help set up those integrations so that when you click this thing off, it fires off this action or this activity. And then those boards can roll up and create for dashboards and give you insights and across multiple aspects of the organization. So we work with companies big and small, nonprofits, for-profits, companies all across the U.S. and expanding outside the U.S. as well. We can get that set up.
Cool, cool. And then pretty much every day is its own journey. You devote time where need be and just try to manage these three different business initiatives.
I try to, so I do a daily reflection and like a daily planning, and actually handwrite out my plan for the next day, where I'm going to be, with the meetings I'm in, what I want to be working on and thinking about, and supporting others on their journey. I typically have 10 to 15 meetings a day. It's wild. And then I weave in that, picking my kids up from school and taking them to their activities and all that. Although, Rick, I don't know if you can believe it, my son is going to get his learning permit,
Wow.
permit in 2 weeks. That's going to be it. That's a very exciting. He thinks like, oh, go-karting and driving cars is like the same. I'm like, it's a little different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although actually it's a good skill. My folks, and you've been up to the lake before. My folks let the kids when they're little drive the golf cart with the idea of
Hmm.
you're just developing certain
Yeah.
skills and
Yeah.
making judgments. So that go-karting,
Right.
at a minimum, is hopefully gonna not only teach them how to drive fast, but teach them how to drive safely,
Yeah, exactly. Defensively.
defensively. Shifting gears just a little bit, I know you're a super disciplined guy. You and I share the desire to go to the gym and do athletic things. You talked a little bit about being outdoorsy and the RV and the camping and doing stuff like that. Talk a little bit about the fitness regime, because I would argue that the person who stays disciplined with their fitness also potentially might stay disciplined on their business side. So talk a little bit about what you do in that realm.
I think I've got a pretty good system now. I use an app called Fitbod. It's about $100 a year, no, maybe $80 a year subscription, and it builds a workout for me every day based on which muscles are most recovered. And it's just what's nice. It's like I don't have to think about it. It's a totally different every day, and it's ready to go. So I can look in the morning, like, oh, this is what I'm going to work on today. Another big transition was when I just let go of trying to have to do a full workout every single day. Like, I'm just like, you know what? Whatever I can squeeze in, whatever I have time for, I just try to do something every day. I also travel a fair amount, so I always travel with my workout gear, exercise gear, and then I have a Planet Fitness membership, which have 7,000 locations, something crazy. So even when I'm traveling, I just try to hit up the local Planet Fitness, and I've probably been to 50 of them maybe at this point. And then, but if I can't get to a gym, I just in Fitbod, I change the setting to do a no weight, body weight only workout, and just do something. Although I find those pretty boring, so I like to throw weight around. And then I just find as long as I'm just committed to doing something every day, that's whatever it happens to be. It's nice to have that there's something already ready and waiting for me to do. And then I'm able to get it in. And then what's cool about that is like with my kids too, I'm like, hey, let's go to the gym. Let's just build that into our routine. My son, before he starts school this year, we always go for a walk in the morning. So I just try to weave fitness and healthy lifestyle to make it just a habit. And it wasn't always a habit. It just happened to be the case that started was able to get myself to just do it by tricking myself. I leave my phone or my shoes by the door near the had to get up and go there to do it. And then it just got to the point where I can't even imagine not doing something exercise related every day. It's interesting how was just a mindset shift. And then when I do that planning every night, I figure out where I'm going to fit it in my day. And whenever possible, I'd like to double or triple dip into other things. So I'll do a meeting on the treadmill desk. So I'll walk. It's crazy. I'll walk 4 miles in a meeting and didn't even realize it. Or I'll have quality time with my kids. We're in between things. Go drop into the family or the Planet Fitness while I'm waiting for my son to tear down after the play, and we can't pick him up. So my other son will go and I will do that. So we just designed it. I'm just trying to design it so it's just like we've woven into our daily movements and it isn't something that is extraneous or hassle.
Love it. Where did you get that daily planner idea? Did you find that somewhere or did you just create it yourself?
I don't know exactly, but Gino Wickman has definitely been an inspiration. He's the creator of EOS. I saw him speak about it, but I don't actually know exactly. But I actually plan out my day essentially almost hour by hour, what I'm going to be doing, what I'm going to be working on. And that includes downtime as well. I plan for that. I found that if we don't, it just doesn't happen and work takes over everything. And I also block time I'm going to be hanging out with my kids, and which is getting smaller and smaller now that they're hanging out with their friends and doing other activities, which I'm so super happy about.
Yeah.
But that time is becoming more precious too.
The good news that I'm seeing now is that there's a little bit of a boomerang effect. They gravitate towards their kids and other stuff, and then a little bit of luck and a little bit of good parenting, then they end up coming back as they get a little bit older. Anyway, last question, formal question is, and I ask this a lot at my Club E sessions, is there any advice that somebody gave you along the way that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Oh, no, that's a great question. You probably have asked me that one.
I probably have asked that one, but you got to come up with a new answer this time in case somebody goes cross-checks on YouTube channel. Hey, what did Daniel say before?
Yeah, good question. There's a couple different ways I could go with that. I think the biggest thing that I've learned maybe more recently is listen to and trust myself a little bit more. Sometimes when there's like I have this inkling like, this isn't going to go well, or maybe I pick up on this. It's interesting because like I think I pick up on maybe a nonverbal cue, and like subconsciously I know something's not quite right, but like it didn't hit my consciousness. I think the biggest thing I've done lately is to actually stop and listen to myself a little bit more, and root out that ambiguity. And so if I think that's okay, there's something that is like not quite clear or not totally solid, or I just don't feel quite settled with it, actually listening to myself and not just like brushing past that. So I think like trusting my instincts a little bit more maybe would be something that I wish I would have been suggested to do earlier on. And that's been something I've been working on the last few years.
Cool. All right, what's one or two things you'd like the audience to take with them regarding our conversation today? A key point or two that you'd like to reiterate or make sure they take it with them as they go down their business and life journey?
Yeah, I think have a beginner's mind with everything, both embracing new technologies that are happening at unprecedented paces than ever, and open to new ideas and new ways of thinking, and then have some kind of practice for you with all that's going on right now and how busy everyone is. Time for yourself to think and get clear on what your priorities are. Gino calls it, or in EOS it's called a clarity break. And that's where I do the thinking and reflection and planning for my future. I do that, or future week, future day, future hours. I do that in a clarity break. So that'd be two things I'd take away from this. I've I like to say like the biggest breakthroughs I've had, both personally and professionally, in the last several years have actually happened within the context of a clarity break, where I'm just taking time to shut off everything, shut off all the tech, and just have time, quiet time to just think. And I always have something to write on. That's been where all the big breakthroughs have happened in my life. So those would be the two things.
Great. Great. Thank you for sharing. Again, Daniel, thank you for all that you've done with me on my own personal journey. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a colleague. Thank you for being an inspiration. Look forward to talking to you again.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Thank you
All
as
right.
well.
Take care.
Take care.